Greetings and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation, to our members, friends, and all others who are watching this virtual worship service on our YouTube channel. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. I'm the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, minister of this congregation. I will be hosting our service today, March 22nd, 2020, along with our music director, Gabe Hernandez, our accompanist, Rebecca Prizznick, and worship associate, Kim Angelo. If you'd like to participate more fully in this virtual service, please pause the video and go to our website, beaconuu.com, where you can download an order of service with song lyrics and unison readings. If you're tuning in on March 22nd at 10 a.m., join us for a virtual social hour after the service. The links for the meeting online are on our website. This congregation is spiritually open and intentionally inclusive. Our members and friends bring many interests, theologies, and viewpoints. Here, we trust you will find a common desire for meaningful community and spiritual growth, and for relevant religious exploration in your search for truth and meaning. Membership in this congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in the spirit of love and the search for truth. As Gabe lights our chalice in an act of unity with Unitarian Universalist congregations across the world, please light your own chalice or candle at home as we recite these unison words found in the order of service. Deep calls unto deep, joy calls unto joy, light calls unto light. Let this flame kindle in us the inner light of love, of peace, of hope, and as one flame lights another, nor grows the less, we pledge ourselves to be bearers of light wherever we go. And now I'd like to offer some opening words by my colleague, Lynn Cox. So appropriate for us both together in spirit, even if we are apart in body. It's called A Web of Relationships. Spirit of life, who draws us together in a web of holy relationships, make your presence known to us, in us and among us. Remind us that we are not alone. Ignite us with the courage of our living tradition. Remind us that we are not alone in entering the future. Anchor us with patience and perseverance. Remind us that we are not alone in our times of grief and pain. Comfort us with your spirit, manifest in human hands and voices. Remind us that we're not alone in our joy and wonder. Inspire us to honor and find beauty even in this hurting world. Divine music of the universe, let our hearts beat in diverse and harmonious rhythm, cooperating with the everlasting dance of love. May we move with the rhythms of peace. May we move with the beat of compassion. May we move with the rhythm of justice. Source of stars and planets and water and land, open our hearts to all of our neighbors. Open our souls to renewal of faith. Open our hands to join together in hope for the days ahead. And now, I invite you to rise as you are willing and able at home, and join in singing Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. The lyrics are printed on the back of your order of service.
to recite the mission and covenant of Beacon. The mission of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is to be a welcoming community that embraces diverse thought, belief, and builds a just, peaceful, and compassionate world. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in kindness. Thus do we covenant. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe.
Every week when we come together in this sanctuary, we share our personal joys and sorrow with one another. While we're apart physically, I invite you to send me your joys and sorrows by noon on Thursday, and they will be included in this virtual service. I believe that there is one great sorrow in the world right now, and that is that so many of us are having issues with being separated from one another. So I'm going to ask Gabe to put some stones in for that. It's difficult to be distanced from one another. It's difficult to not be able to do the many things we're used to doing. So for the patience that we hope to have, I ask Gabe to drop a stone. For the belief we have that we will endure as a community, as a society, as a planet, I ask Gabe to drop a stone. For all of those that we know and do not know who may already have contracted this virus or know somebody who has, I ask Gabe to drop this stone. For the wisdom of our leaders to be honest with us, to do the right thing, and to help us move through this in health and a sense of security, I ask Gabe to drop this stone. We share to connect with one another, to aid our healing and to multiply our joy. These joys and sorrows are held in sacred community, even during this time of social distancing for safety. And now we'll have a guided meditation. Before that, though, I just want to say, as I do each week, that beyond the virus, let us remember that everyone is fighting their own private battle. We know not what it is, but because we're human, we know it to be true. So let us be especially kind, compassionate, flexible, and forgiving with one another. And now wherever it is you are watching this from, I invite you to put down your books, your orders of service, your phone, put your feet on the floor, uncross your arms, close your eyes, and breathe. Breath is such a portable first aid kit for us, emotionally and spiritually and physically. So just breathe. Take 4 beats in through your nose, go 4 beats out through your mouth in a steady stream, breathing in and out in order to relax your body and your mind. See what kind of spaciousness you can create inside of yourself as you breathe. It's that simple. Breathe and allow. This meditation will begin and end with the sound of the chime. A survival meditation by Nathan Walker. Breathing in, I am aware of my pain. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my pain. Breathing in, I am aware of my past. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my past. Breathing in, I'm aware of my anger. Breathing out, I'm aware that I am not my anger. Breathing in, I am aware of my despair. Breathing out, I'm aware that I am not my despair. Breathing in, I am aware of peace. Breathing out, I am aware that I am worthy of peace. Breathing in, I am aware of love. Breathing out, I'm aware that I am worthy of love. Breathing in, I am aware of joy. Breathing out, I'm aware that I am an agent of joy. Breathing in, I am aware of hope. Breathing out, I am aware that I am an agent of hope. Breathing in, I am aware. Breathing out, I am aware. Let us be silent together. And now Gabe will lead us in a meditation on breathing. The words can be found on the back of your order of service. I invite you to remain seated.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
Our first reading today is by Rumi. It's called Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning is a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if there are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And our second one is How to Recognize Grace by Marilyn Chandler McIntyre. It takes you by surprise. It comes in odd packages. It sometimes looks like loss or mistakes. It acts like rain or like a seed. It's both reliable and unpredictable. It's not what you were aiming at or what you thought you deserved. It supplies what you need, not necessarily what you want. It grows you up and lets you be a child. It reminds you that you're not in control, and that not being in control is a form of freedom.
And for this week's musical interlude, I'm going to sing for you Just as Long as I Have Breath. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life.
My sermon today is entitled Waiting for the Ice Cream Truck on Living Deliberately in a Random World. David Beeves is the man who has all the luck. In Arthur Miller's debut play of the same name that was first staged in 1944, Beeves acts out an ironic reversal of Job's mythic misfortune in Hebrew scripture. Plagued by the contrast between his own success and the failure of just about everybody else around him, he tries to make sense of his good fortune. Over time, this cosmic injustice breeds in David a fearful irony, and he becomes so convinced that something terrible will befall his newborn child that he can't even bring himself to embrace his charmed son. He becomes reckless in his attempt to tempt fate, even over-investing in a capricious mink farming business. Why? Why always me? He wonders. Why am I so lucky? Now Job's somebody we've heard of. Job is the faithful servant for whom luck vanishes completely one ancient biblical day, along with his fortune, his family, and very nearly his faith. After God enters into a contest with Satan to determine Job's piety, the humble Israelite confronts his absurd misfortune by initially blessing God. Yet the serene, accepting man is not the same person we meet later in the book. His so-called comforters have offered him a smattering of half-baked explanations, and none of them even come close to soothing his wretchedness. The cosmos has become a dark, tangled place, absent of meaning and purpose, and Job wishes for the very end of the life of the cosmos itself. Why me, Lord, he pleads. Why me? Those of us gathered here today, here on YouTube, here in Flagstaff, wherever it is you are in this moment, we reside somewhere east of Eden, south of heaven, and hopefully north of hell. We live and breathe in those charged places on the Great Prairie, smack between King of the Hill and King of the Ash Heap, where we too ask, why me? And where the misery and grandeur of human beings confront each other. I call that place the human condition, and say that part of the project of living there deliberately and with grace is considering what meaning can be extracted from events that seem meaningless, random, unfair, and undeserved. On this March day, just past the fabled Ides of March, which are associated with dread and misfortune, this randomness enigma, coupled with the very real global coronavirus threat, begs the question of whether traditional religious concepts can ever really jive with a universe that is at least partially random. How can you be saved in a random universe? And if salvation doesn't interest you, then what about hope? Is that worthwhile? Or faith? What's the point of these virtues in a partially random world, where we are each likely to tumble unexpectedly at some point in our human lives, from summits of success or health onto ash heaps of despair or illness? Now, our starting point for assessing the blend of randomness and providence in the universe makes all the difference. What is our starting point? In Job's Jewish context, God is kind of a master puppeteer, an accountant really, a moral accountant with a big ledger book, who at his discretion or whim makes bad or good things happen, keeps us out of harm's way, decides whether to clean up the messes he creates. In other paradigms, God is cast as an enabler who curates nature for our betterment or pleasure. In the Christian vernacular, assigning Jesus the role of our preordained collective savior puts a lot of onus on him, not us, to practice confession and forgiveness, to be accountable for our own human sins and our choices, to save the world, to suffer some of life's inevitable crucifixions, and to invite the healing release of renewal, the human condition. To be sure, I am looking out with compassion on a virtual congregation that has had its share of Good Fridays, prolonged unemployment, unexpected and uncertain medical diagnoses, failed or troubled relationships or children, and the loss of beloved family members and friends. Under each of these circumstances, I wonder if it's helpful or comforting to cling to or revert to a construct that asks us to submit to the will or whim of a personal God. If you are a humanist or an agnostic, an atheist, or a fellow Unitarian Universalist, I think you can guess my opinion on this matter. I fret that these conventional concepts of God as a fixer lead us into an even thornier thicket of contradiction and defeat. For some people, the sense of being let down by God shatters their faith entirely in a universe that they believed was divinely organized and maintained. Like Job, the modern-day theist, currently sheltering at home, has plenty of time to wonder, if God is good and all-powerful, and I've been faithful, why is this tragedy befalling me? And if God isn't all-powerful and cannot stop this tragedy, well then why is he worth worshiping? This can result in a profound crisis of faith. Or like David Beebs from Arthur Miller's play, although this scenario is extremely rare, might ask, why is good fortune always smiling on me? If God is fair and just, where is my share of the sorrow? One summer, many years ago, I was full of existential angst and convoluted musings regarding the breakup of my long marriage. Lots of whys and what ifs floated in the human ether. I suppose more than anything, I wanted some sign that I would recover and feel joyful again. One August afternoon, as I strode down the hill to the beach at White Pond, the local Concord, Massachusetts watering hole with my children, I noticed a whiteboard propped up against a tree, emblazoned with the following message. Lifeguard on duty doesn't know when the ice cream truck is coming. I had to laugh, and how I needed to laugh. Sure, we all assumed that the good humor guy would show up at 3:30 as usual, but not even the lifeguard knew for certain, and he really didn't want to be pestered by dozens of kids. Of course, I read my typical theological bent into that. How could I resist? Here we are, waiting for the ice cream truck, full of all those goodies, and oh, how we want it to come on time and without exception. But we have to be patient, have faith, accept uncertainty, and have our money ready for that mad dash when we hear that familiar melody beckoning us down the road. Now indulge me a bit here, because there's a little more to the metaphor. Let's say the ice cream truck does show up, and it doesn't have what you want. They're out of chocolate eclair bars, and you have to settle for a Choco Taco. Can you handle that with some grace? Or the truck shows up with its own disclaimer. Usually it's there. Driver is not responsible for dropped ice cream. And despite your very best efforts, your creamsicle takes a nosedive into the sand. Now what? Are you going to blame God, that great lifeguard in the sky? To be clear, the coronavirus is not an ice cream truck, and the resulting illness is not a creamsicle dropped in the sand. But we are waiting nonetheless for what will come, when it will arrive, and how it will affect us. And beyond the God construct that many of us grew up with, religious liberals can turn to other less conventional methods for processing suffering, loss, anxiety, and misfortune. These include contexts like human cruelty, murder, corporate greed, bombing villages, and the border detention centers. Human error, something as simple as dropping your ice cream, or as serious as health habits that cause you to have a chronic illness. Bad timing, random bad timing, finding yourself, for instance, aboard one of the ill-fated planes on 9/11. Acts of nature, hurricanes and earthquakes. Inadvertently being exposed to this virus before we understood its impact. And finally, sheer, unexplainable randomness beyond any rhyme or reason. Now, this list may hit you like a cold shower when what you really want right now is a warm bath. As rational and humanistic as we profess to be, we may even want to keep God or whatever we think of as sacred or powerful or true or comforting in the equation, and that is fine. Your beliefs are your business, and prayer is not prohibited. I'm enriched by what the Rabbi Lawrence Kushner says about all of this. He tells the story of a pregnant woman dying of a brain tumor who he meets while out shopping for bargains and who joins his synagogue with her family during her decline. He writes, "They joined. She bore a daughter. She died. I did the funeral." Talk about a tumble. Years later, Kushner recalls delighting in that daughter, now a teenager, considering the rabbinate as her vocation. In the face of such a random and unfair tragedy, Kushner notes, sounding a bit like a transcendentalist, that the divine is everywhere and everything. He lifts up our old pal Job as an example, to whom God shows the whole awesome pageant of life and death. A part of Job's story, by the way, that we seem to overlook or just don't know about. Because in the book of Job, God shows him this panorama: lions tearing apart gazelles, vultures ripping flesh, thunderstorms, earthquakes, everything. Then he says to Job, in effect, "What do you think of that, huh? I hope you like it because I'm in that too. Not just in everything good or in feeling good, but everything. Even randomness, one can presume." Kushner then writes, "Look, I don't think God made a tumor grow in that girl's mother's head, or that God has anything to do with the girl's choice of careers or where I shop for bargain basement clothes. But I can't get it out of my head that somehow God is mixed up in the whole horrible, holy, joyous, goddamn thing." Naturally, as a rabbi, Kushner is a theist, liberal as he may be. And this sanctuary, it's not a Jewish temple. It's a Unitarian Universalist congregation where for some of us, God isn't mixed up in the whole horrible, joyous, goddamn thing at all. That's fine too. In fact, many of us reject this idea entirely and resonate much more strongly with science and probability theory, like the St. Petersburg paradox and the Monty Hall problem, than we do with the A plus B theology we find elsewhere. And you know, these rational perspectives may not be all that bloodless or without important religious value. As compelling as these theories are, in a random universe, they offer no more of a guarantee of cheating tragedy, a virus, or failure as blind faith. Now, I've recently learned that in the so-called Monty Hall scheme from the TV classic Let's Make a Deal, that I think has made a comeback, the cloying game show host always shows the contestant one of the bad doors among the three choices. I never noticed that. That way, the contestant actually ends up having a 50-50 chance of winning. Now, if life were only that predictable, if only the universe showed us the bad doors and offered to cut a deal with us, that would improve the odds. I'm reminded of a New Yorker cartoon that I clipped out years ago that shows a male contestant on Let's Make a Deal facing this dilemma. "In your case, Bob," says Monty, "there's a choice: perpetual bliss, incessant despair, or whatever's in the box that our lovely Carol is holding." Now, given these choices, the mystery box is the one I pick because it's most like the life I'm destined to live anyway, and that you're destined to live. Some bliss, some despair, lots of unknowns, both gifts and zingers wrapped up in unexpected packages that are delivered to our doorsteps, sometimes COD. The question is for me, for each of us, can I accept this randomness and let go? When the world suddenly and unexpectedly tilts and breaks open like it has these past few weeks, can I face this reality and not be crushed by it, run from it, or explain it away with convenient myths? Can I surrender my illusion of complete control over my world and my life? My colleague, Mark Bellatini, answers this question by saying, a religious liberal surrenders to reality, not to omnipotent faith. Our wishes about the world are not reality. Our dreams of the way the world should be and ought to be are not reality, even if they are worthy or aspirational. The questions, how can they behave that way, or why me, Lord, are ways of avoiding reality. They do believe that way. These things do happen to us. Yes, I did lose my job or get that diagnosis or experience the pain of a breakup. Even the ever-faithful Job asks God why he has been forsaken. Who among us has not felt forsaken at some point in our lives? We ache for comfort, relief, explanations, and rescue. Luckily, few of us experience realities as terrifying as what Job faced. Even so, to insist that reality should automatically be different than it is represents the exact opposite of what is meant by living deliberately. That is, to surrender rather than succumb to the reality of what is, to deal with it and face it without excuses or denial. This is my definition of grace. And listen to me when I tell you that this type of surrender should not be confused with acquiescence or powerlessness, just the opposite. There is great power, great maturity, and great humility in surrendering to what's real rather than how we expect or wish things would be. I realize that philosophy can be hard to accept or reconcile when chaos or viruses show up instead of order, when we cannot totally control outcomes. All of this reminds me a bit of a movie I saw some years ago. It's called The Straight Story. It's a wonderful, quirky movie in which a modern-day Ulysses makes his way across Iowa on top of a lawn tractor in a quest to reconcile with his estranged and dying brother. At one juncture, he comes upon a woman leaning against her car crying with her head in her hands, and in the road lay a dead deer. All around them are open fields as far as the eye can see. Our hero stops to comfort the woman, and she explains her plight. This is the third one I have hit this year. Where do they come from? Look around. How do I not see them? I don't know what to do, she said. I have no choice. I have to go this way. In the context of this sermon, that woman had a few choices. She could drive 40 miles out of her way to avoid another possible, perhaps inevitable, collision with a deer. She could stay home, or she could surrender to the reality, like us, she has to go this way. Take her chances, make her choices, be humble and kind, and derive what meaning she can from the sublime moments of grace and the maddening encounters with randomness. David Beeves, Miller's lucky lad. You wonder what happened to him? Well, eventually, he has his own epiphany too. He realized he was lucky because he made good fortune work for him. At each lucky crossroad, he acted on his fate and he directed it. He realizes that individuals must pay attention and that they must be responsible for their actions and that they are irrevocably connected morally to one another and to the universe. Finally, he runs upstairs to embrace his child. One can almost hear the words of another great American playwright, Thornton Wilder, who tells us, "My advice to you is not to inquire why or whither, but just to enjoy your ice cream while it's on your plate. I'd argue that it is okay to inquire why and whither, and to enjoy your ice cream while it's on your plate and not in the sand. We have choices to make, you and me. Like the inadvertent deer killer, like David Beeves, you can run and hide, we can cower or fret, or we can take a new route. And like Job, we can confront the real. My friends, try to remember, hope is better than luck. Expect chaos, yet be brave and foolish enough to hope, and faithful enough to live deliberately despite the randomness, the fear, and the tragedy. We will find our way through together. This is my day and your day, and every which way, grace, reliable and unpredictable, will come and find us. It may arrive in odd packages and look like loss or mistakes, but it will grow us up and let us be children. Grace may come to us, as it does so often, here in Flagstaff, as a brilliant bluebird sky after a snowfall, a crocus opening on a spring morn, a supermarket restocked with paper towels and hand sanitizer, butterfly dust on the brim of your hat, a piece of your heart healed open. The gift of technology to FaceTime with faraway beloveds, finding ourselves healthy when this virus threat has passed, maybe even a deeper connection to our higher selves through solitude, joy or pain beyond our wildest imaginings. Grace may even come in the form of an ice cream truck that shows up on time and even has your favorite. Whether we can maintain our good humor if it doesn't, well, a truly spiritual life wouldn't be worth much without a challenge, would it? Blessed be and blessed we. Amen. Gabe will now lead us in Spirit of Life. The words are on the back of your order of service. Typically, when we're here together, this is the time when we join our hands in a community closing. So let us envision the joining of our hands, because we are always connected. As Gabe extinguishes the chalice, please join me in the unison benediction in your order of service. Now, go out into the world in peace. Have courage, hold on to what is good, return to no person evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, and honor all beings. We also take a collection in the sanctuary from week to week, and we would like to encourage you to continue supporting Beacon, practicing generosity and affirming our gratitude for this community. During this virtual worship time, we are arranging for you to make a secure donation on our website through the Vanco application. You can also send a check to Beacon at our address with offering in the memo. Be well, stay safe. We are Beacon, always connected. Blessed be, blessed we.